Thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Let me just start by saying how happy I am to be in this wonderful city, Split, for the first time, actually. And I was amazed by the beauty and wonder of this city. And I may agree, actually, with the people of Split that it is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Having said this, I would also like to thank COPEAM for inviting me to take part in this important conference, the 26th annual conference of the association under the subject of changing societies, communicating diversities. I would also like to ask to say that the Lind Foundation is going to sign today a memorandum of understanding with COPEAM to enhance and strengthen our already existing cooperation with this very important organization. Also thanks to Croatia Radio Television for being a partner in this event. Let me begin my presentation, and of course my colleague Aida is going to help me with the data show over here. But what I would like to say at the outset is that more and more people are consuming news in this digital era more than ever. This is a trademark of this period of time in which we live, the consumption of news at a very high rate. And this is also brings in many challenges. Like what? Like an increasingly fragmented audiences. As a result of this, various news consuming platforms offered specifically via social media channels. It also makes it harder for journalists and editors to cope with this fast pace of news dissemination. Most research nowadays shows that people continue to get news via social media. Despite the concerns about its accuracy, most of them share it at the same time. So they consume it and share it. They're not very happy about it, but they do it all the time. This is the situation in which we find ourselves in. What we are experiencing today is that news is literally everywhere around us. News. We are bombarded by news from every side, from every angle. We are all exposed to them at any given time, and our audience doesn't have to work hard to find the news. It reaches you wherever you are. You don't have to exert any effort. You're just swimming in a sea of news. So today's journalist must be a true multi-skilled professional who can take photos, write report, tweet, while at the same time being able to remain a true professional who will report based on facts. And let me also share with you, as a former editor of a major newspaper, as a former minister of media, that it is not easy. The life of the journalist nowadays is not easy at all, as you may all agree or experience. It takes a joint effort to continue providing our audiences with great journalism that will capture their attention and keep them engaged. How can you do that when they are getting the news from every source in a very easy way? This is something that the Lind Foundation has recognized as one of its priority areas in our region, and by that we mean to work with the media, The flood of the opinion and the false information on the internet is not a breaking story anymore. We all know it. It is our daily fact that we all have to keep addressing with utmost attention. Therefore, one of the answers how to cope with this situation, media literacy today is more important than ever, to educate the people, to raise awareness among the people. We firmly believe that better awareness and media literacy skills can stimulate people of all ages to acquire the knowledge and strategies they need to be more informed actors in our increasingly media-immersed and technology-influenced world. In other words, what we're saying here is that there is not much you can do with the sender of information, because the scene here is so complex, but there is a lot you can do with the receiver, the citizen who consumes this information. And media literacy, of course, is one of the major answers. Now we come to our field of work more closely. Cultural stereotypes, disseminated through media mainly, are hard to break, as we know throughout history. Today, with digital media that shares the news with the speed of light, the misconception, misrepresentation, misinformation can quickly become the norm, simply due to the wide distribution available today. Journalism schools have taught that objectivity is a central journalistic norm for nearly as long as those schools have offered journalism education. But that, again, is becoming more and more difficult. We are facing a historical era of growing mistrust and polarization across and within our societies. Many of the old certainties concerning governance and the respective roles of states, intergovernmental organizations, and civil society have been eroded and undermined by unrest and the violence of exclusion in our communities. Increased hate speech in certain media and the multiplication of electoral shifts towards populist parties testify to this dissatisfaction. The chains of trust between people, particularly young people, and traditional institutions and governments have been loosened. In efforts to regain that trust, we can't afford to lose a generation. The problem is not really whether we leave our young people behind, but rather if they leave us behind. Youth voices remains the missing link in this chain. How should we respond to this scene of drift and delusion among the young women and men in our region? The answer is by inclusion, by investment in their voice, agency, and leadership, and by giving them a sense of ownership in policies that affect their lives and livelihoods. I'm proud to say that the Lindh Foundation has produced the very first cohort of young Mediterranean leaders through our Young Mediterranean Voices Leadership Seminar that took place in Malta in January this year in cooperation with MEDAC and Club de Madrid. The program paid special attention to media education, through which we provided those young people with the knowledge, values, and a range of critical thinking, communication, and information management skills they need to be true leaders of tomorrow. Also, the third Intercultural Trends report, carried out and produced by the Lindh Foundation, published in 2018, launched a few months ago in Rome, provided ample data to support the above, as well as an evidence base for the required new thinking and how regional cooperation and global relations are constructed. This is one of our most important publications, the Intercultural Trends report, and at the end of my presentation I will share with you the link which you can access to see this important work by the Anna Lindh Foundation. Among other intercultural issues surveyed in this report, it explores public interest in news and information between European and South and Eastern Mediterranean countries, SEM. How media shape public opinion, how media shape public opinion and attitudes in the region. The most trusted media sources for cross-cultural reporting in that space and related socio-demographic characteristics of the populations involved, including gender, age, and education. And just let me tell you a concrete outcome of how media portrays intercultural trends in the region as it was found in this report. Unfortunately, media is not playing a very positive role in this area, or I might say a negative role, because attitudes of the man and woman in the street is much better than it was portrayed in the media. So media is reflecting or exaggerating the gulf that may exist between peoples on both shores of the Mediterranean, when in fact the social responsibility of media should prompt it to play a more positive role in this regard. For example, the survey asks respondents how interested they are personally in news and information about European and Southeast Mediterranean countries, classified under 5 headings. First, cultural life and style, then political situation, then economic conditions, religious beliefs and practices, and sports activities. The findings reveal somewhat different rankings on both sides of the Mediterranean. The Europeans are generally more interested in each of the categories than SEM respondents, combining very interested and somewhat interested answers. Religious beliefs and practices in Europe are markedly less interesting for the SEM countries than the other way, 46 to 59. But sports activities are of much greater interest from the south to the north, reversing that pattern, 61 to 46. People in the north with friends or relatives in the SEM countries are more interested in its news. The findings of this report are worth exploring further by journalists. We invite journalists to look at this report and explore it further and understand it further and try to see these findings from a journalistic point of view. These findings are worth exploring further by journalists involved in cross-cultural reporting as a guide to a public interest in this work. Analyses by individual country, by age, gender, and education show varying potential demand for coverage. Whether that demand is being effectively met is a larger question that can be answered only by observing and mapping actual media content. The pattern of indifference shown in this report, shows that reporting across the Mediterranean is probably, unfortunately, not a media priority on either side. For example, direct evidence of media's role in shaping public perception comes from the question, which asked whether respondents had, during the previous 12 months, seen, read, or heard anything in the media that has influenced your view of people. Across 12 months, have you seen, read, or heard anything in the media that has influenced your perception in the European or SEM countries? Responses were prompted in a 5-point scale ranging from yes, in a positive or negative way, through having seen something but leaving views unchanged, to not seeing anything, to not knowing. The outcome is that there is a marked difference between the European side, where 55 said they encountered something but their views remained unchanged, and 12% only who said this in the South. Anna Lindh Foundation calls for a more engaged approach which involves practicing journalists, editors, and publishers in discussing and acting on these issues. This is the spirit in which we should animate media dialogue, research, and analysis. There is more chance of engaging the media if they participate in that discussion, including in their own self-criticism and how they respond to criticism from NGOs and others about their coverage. The values of evidence-based argument and debate, the expressed desire of publics North and South for greater intercultural engagement, as well as the intensification of hot topics in the region, create a real opportunity for media coverage in the coming period. A cooperative process is the way to go in setting the tone for the future. Thank you so much.